we showcase some of the talented people who work behind the scenes in the entertainment, business, and local communities while making positive influences on the lives of others.
Welcome to Producer's Profile. I'm Stella Winston.
And I'm Orville Nelson. And we have a dynamite guest here today. This is Derin Young.
Yes.
And I was able to work on a shoot the other day where she performed. And I'm so happy I got a chance to hear her sing.
Yes.
Welcome, Derin Young.
Thanks. I'm glad I got a chance to see you dance.
Now tell me, Derin, you are a producer here at BCAT Studios.
A new Jack at BCAT.
A new Jack.
A new Jack, that sounds good. I like that. Say that one more time.
A new Jack at BCAT.
All right. And a talented Jack at that.
Yes.
Now, the name of the show that you're working on, well, is there anything before we jump into that you wanted to talk about with Derin?
Well, we could start with her performance at on Pop TV.
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about.
Yes, let's talk about that. Now, you work along with RM Cruz on Pop TV. Tell us how did that get started and what's that all about?
Well, Pop TV Magazine is, I'll call it a variety show of sorts at the moment, but it's a concept that RM Cruz came up with. She's a producer here at BCAT.
Yes.
And it basically features different elements of pop culture, and it focuses on different artists whose work fits into that genre, I guess, of pop art in a sense, and African American pop culture, which focuses on everything fun about being black in America. But it doesn't. You don't have to be African American to be a part of that, because all the cultures are crossing and mixing.
Oh, definitely.
Here,
and
especially
the music itself has been around, and it's in all types of music, all types of venues, in terms of rock and roll, in terms of jazz,
Right.
in terms of soul, R&B, all that. So, yeah, it's for everyone.
Exactly. So we came up with the idea, and I started working as a talent coordinator, coming up with ideas for people that could be on the show, and really working as a partner. You've been working very closely with us, Stella, and so we've just been really trying to come up with compelling content and concepts to offer to the public, hopefully for the next year or so. So
Well,
hopefully the show will have a life.
I noticed, well, the show will have a life. That's a definite. I noticed at the very beginning of the show you had animation. And I know that you also, without mentioning any companies or anything, you actually work with or for an animation company?
Well, I work for a content developer that does a lot of, develops content for some companies who feature animation online as well as on air.
Did that influence your working there? Did that influence the beginning of the show at all?
A little bit, because I've been learning a lot about what's possible in terms of digital media, and so since BCAT has those facilities and capability here, we wanted to use the opportunity to show, to express something visual using digital media, whether it be Flash or, I guess, Premiere, Photoshop, whatever, using whatever software we could to kind of, without using words, give images, show images that would communicate the ideas.
And hold the person's interest to see what's coming after. Yeah, it did hold mine.
And give it kind of an identity, Brand identity is very important when you want to make a statement and you want to be recognized in other arenas. So if we produce other types of content, whether it be live shows or whether it be comic books or anything like that, you'll recognize certain things about the brand.
Okay. Well, I definitely would like to show the audience some of what we experienced, because you were there and I was there, and she was there. Can we see some of this?
Let's see some of the videotape from Pop TV Magazine.
Some incredible musicians working with Derin. I'll get their names and we'll be interviewing them in a minute, but for now I'd like to introduce our non-radio music segment, and Performing today is Derin Young and her Negro Artists.
In this time of disillusion, sounds of light, messages of true gain, blend with the harmony of the ocean. Drops collectively make this waterway. So hear the wave pounding on the ocean floor, like when I feel the pressure of the current coming on. Hear the wave, feel the story of the sound. When I lose my temper and need something solid and sound. Whoa, whoa. Hear the wave, yeah, yeah. Hear the wave. Tones of love resonate into bands of color. Eyes will see those of rhythm in the calm. Beautiful nature in a progressive motion. Broad sky clouds moving through the channel sound. So hear the wave, so much larger than the banter of all the crowded fields in this transitory state. Now hear the wave after losing my senses over waste byproduct in this planetary egg. Hear the wave, hear the wave, tones of love.
Derin? Beautiful, beautiful.
Thanks. Lovely.
And you were going to mention something because who wrote that?
Doreen, you did write that, isn't that true?
Yeah, it's funny because that particular song, I have to give Mark some play. Mark the 45 King, who's a DJ who has some beats. We were going to collaborate on something and he had some beats, so I wrote this on top of one of his beats. But then instead of doing the electronic version, which I used to sometimes perform it like that with with like a digital tape and vocal, I just do it live with a band, and it does sound more jazzy. It sounds a little more jazzy with the band, but it really came out of a hip hop idea. Like, so it was like straight hip hop, which musicians know is like a straight A section, no B, no change. But it was fun, and it's like poetry, with music behind it.
Now, do you often write over beats? Is that how you write primarily, or is that not?
Yeah, not primarily. As hip hop kind of became popular, when I've collaborated with DJs and people who, you know, guys mix masters, people who like to mix. That's part, like sometimes it's easier for them. They'll have, you know, instead of them taking vocals that I have and coming up with loops, I'll just say, let me hear all your beats. And then we'll start to collaborate that way. But primarily, I'll just come up with music, and then I teach the music to musicians. And then if they want to collaborate because there's a need there, then sometimes that works. But often I just get the idea, and then we just get, you know, assemble a group of people and do create the idea or perform the idea.
So when you say, let me hear all your beats, you want to see something you can flow with, something, and you
Yeah,
choose something.
and it's funny because usually I like the stuff that they don't like. The stuff, like the more subtle, less in your face stuff that I think it's asking for something else to go with it, you know, so that together it can be a finished piece of material rather than a beat that's just in your face and stands alone and doesn't really need that much vocal to it.
Now, how many original pieces do you have?
I don't even know. I'm not sure.
But I heard
don't
something
know.
about enough to fill.
Like 3 or 4 CDs? I mean,
Maybe, yeah, probably.
that's a lot.
Yeah, I hope someday to get them all together. But you know, a lot of musicians have a lot of music, and you don't really ever, I think, record all of it. I mean, I don't know many musicians. I'm sure they all, even the ones that are dead and gone, they have stuff in their trunks, and
That you will never know about.
that's right.
Now-
I used to work in the library once as a kid, and they had a lot of possessions of famous composers and actors, and there was all the stuff that the public will never see that they created.
It's a secret. It will remain a secret maybe forever.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the clip. The piece was introduced by the host, who was Andre Harris, as non-radio music. Could you explain, what do you mean by non-radio music?
Well, it's like a little joke. Ronnie Cruz and myself have like this joke about non-radio music, which actually I have to give some props to some. I'm not going to mention any names, but back in the 80s, we used to always say, you know, when we first started doing music, when we were in our teens or whatever, oh yeah, you can pick up my album on Maxell Records, Maxell cassettes.
Meaning that there was no Maxell.
Right, there was no label involved, you
Okay.
know, on TDK, you know, cassettes. You know,
Something you recorded yourself.
Yeah, so basically you were doing demos, and it's something that, you know, we're going to explore a little bit more, the whole demo, the concept of the demo, especially in the analog world, which is before digital music CDs became popular. But non-radio music is music that's not in the mainstream. Maybe it could be, or it sounds like it is, but it's not easily, you can't access it through the main veins and venues. So we called it non-radio music. So basically there's so many bands and there's so much music that fits into that category that it's kind of a collective of ideas and groups that we probably will let the public see and hear in different avenues, different environments, whether it be digitally, online, whether it be through BCAT, which is also now going to be digital, or it could be through live concerts.
Well, I'm wondering something. You say that you have so much music. We heard some of it right now, not just a little while ago. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
I'm curious, what was your upbringing like? If you can just give me a minute, what was your upbringing like?
It was interesting.
Was it musical? Were you
It was
influenced?
musical. For like in my early days, like when I was 3 and 4 years old, it was very musical. My mother was a pianist and a percussionist, and she worked and sang with different artists. Notably, I guess in terms of historicity or whatever, if that's a word.
That's a word.
The late 60s.
Yeah, make it one.
Right? The late 60s, she worked with Olatunji on that Drums of Passion album, which was like a real
Classic.
major album
It's a classic.
in Afro-American culture, because African Americans were starting to learn about the music of West Africa, and it was starting to be revealed in a way that it wasn't before. And people like Catherine Dunham and Pearl Primus and people like that were bringing certain elements of the culture and dance, but now Olatunji was really sharing it and teaching it here, like especially up in Harlem, where you used to be able to get a dance class for $2.
Yes, I remember.
Remember those days? $2. That's the past. But my mom used to have different groups that she worked with. Her name is Joyce. At the time, Joyce Young. Now she's Joyce Idowu. she used to organize concerts and produce concerts as well. So I used to go to a lot of rehearsals with her. And I remember actually, this is going to make people laugh if anyone sees this show. Studio O, back in the late 60s, early 70s.
Studio O.
Studio O.
What's Studio
It's
O?
just it's a place where people would perform, and it's like, you know, my mom used to hang out with a lot of the really great musicians of that period. I think Miriam Makeba actually, I remember going to rehearsals and seeing her perform when I was like 3, just sitting there, you know.
You know, the reason why I
Stuff
mention
like
this,
that.
and this is something I say whenever I'm with someone who's musical. I want to know, so people who have children could realize not just the responsibility, but the joy they can give their children to express themselves. Here you have another vehicle to express yourself, and I'm just so happy for you.
It's nice. My mom, you know, she exposed us to, and then she also started a lot of arts programs and dance and music programs herself by bringing teachers from different places to work with kids. So, you know, we were always involved in music and dance and all types of music and dance. So,
Well, Derin, we have another clip.
oh really?
Yes. So we're going to go to this clip.
Oh,
And,
I'm anxious to
you
see
know,
what this is.
Yes, let's
Okay,
see
good.
what it is.
And I'm not sure if it's keyed up yet. It's going to come up very soon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Very well.
Actually, you gave us a gracious introduction.
I think you played very well. I'd like to hear more, by the way. So yes,
Okay.
we'll be hearing more.
One, two, 1, 2, ready. Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you. By now you should have somehow realized what you gotta do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. Backbeat, the word is on the street that the fire in your heart is out. I'm sure you heard it all before, but you never really had a doubt. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads we have to walk are winding, and all the lights that lead us there are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. No, maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my Wonderwall. Today was gonna be the day, but they never throw it back to you. By now you should have somehow realized what you're not to do. I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now. And all the roads that lead you there were winding. All the lights that light the way are blinding. There are many things that I would like to say to you, but I don't know how. Maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my Wonderwall. Maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my Wonderwall. Maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me. And after all, you're my
need to. I need to. I'm breathing. That was real good.
I love that song.
Now, remember I called you and I said, I want a copy of that.
Oasis would be happy. They're the ones who wrote that song.
Oh, no, I'm talking about a copy of you performing that.
Okay,
Thank you
thanks.
very
Yeah, you'll get one.
All right. Pop TV.
Yes. Yes, Pop
RM Cruz, which is Ronnie Cruz.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
mentioned that name a few times.
Yeah, she's good.
She's good. I love the work, the camera work on that. Really, really good.
Now, non-radio music, is that going to be a separate show eventually?
Well, there's going to be an outgrowth from non-radio music, but I can't tell.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the producer of this show, Franz Butler, is going to be involved.
Okay.
It's going to also be centered around producers as well. But it's going to get into more audio and more. It's more for technophiles, and it's a little bit geeky, but it's going to be fun. And there's also going to be other things too, like other groups on pop that'll probably come on Pop TV first.
Now, Franz Butler actually performed that particular evening.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Used horns. He played horns.
Yes, and bass.
I didn't, okay, great.
Now, you spoke about when you were very young and your musical influences, but you also performed professionally over in Europe. Can you please tell us a little bit about your singing life?
That was funny. Ended up getting work as a musician, as a singer, vocalist, and got to co-write on some people's music, and ended up working mostly in France and French-speaking countries. Some work in England and Indian Ocean. Worked with MC Solar, which is a French rap artist who's very well known in jazz and hip hop circles.
Do you speak a second language?
Not really. You speak enough to get by,
But you do, yeah.
A little bit of French. And I worked with a pop artist who was a protege of Lenny Kravitz, Vanessa Paradis, which was nice because I got to work with Lenny Kravitz a little bit because him and his musical director were pretty much running that tour or doing all the artistic direction for that tour. So it was good. And worked with another jazz group that was on Virgin Records and got a chance to just move around by myself and get to see different parts of the world and explore and write. And I wrote a lot of music during that time too. It was nice.
So, Derin, where are you going to go with your singing? What plans?
I'd like to go to Japan for a while.
Have you been to Japan before?
I went once, and I like the smaller towns, so I might look into that. But I think I'm going to probably continue developing my original music and trying to collaborate with other musicians. I'll probably do some recording, probably be on BCAT a little bit more. BCAT's a great place to work out ideas and get good, get feedback from people on
so
things.
Do you have a band now, or are you in the process of?
I'm building a band. Yeah.
How do you build a band?
It's not the simplest thing in the world because of the economy, and being a musician is difficult. But I have a lot of musicians that I work with, so it's really just a matter of finding out who's available, who has a connection to the music that you want to do, and really who's willing, and then just trying to find the right venues and environments for them to play and giving them space to be themselves. So it's an arduous task, but if you love what you do,
and we
you
do
find time for it.
We do. We love because I'm still really feeling really nice after that.
Yeah.
Really feeling nice.
To be the one
To save me. The one.
I like it.
We both love it.
It was good stuff.
Yeah.
And
I'm
the
glad
fact that you
you
have to go
enjoyed
through
it.
all that work and this comes out of it, I'm just so pleased. So pleased.
It's nice. It's nice to be able to create music and be in the BCAT family. Really. It's nice.
Do you play an instrument yourself?
Not really. I mean, I write. I have to work out my ideas on piano, but I use piano more as a tool.
So you learned that when you were younger?
Kinda. I'm like, I don't want to bring up Yanni because he may get annoyed that I brought him up, but he's a musician who also he wrote his own theory. So I'm doing. I use the piano as a tool, and I learned a little bit, and I went to a few music schools.
So you're exposed. Okay.
And we have to mention your hair.
Your hair.
Yes.
You know, I love your hair.
Thanks. I like your hair too, Stella. A lot.
Your hair is
really big. Beautiful hair.
Thanks.
And natural.
It's just an afro.
Natural.
Afros are versatile.
A natural woman.
Yes.
Very talented.
Thank you, Derin Young, for coming on Producer Profile.
It was a pleasure to be here. I'm glad I was invited.
And Pop TV magazine is a special. It doesn't have a certain time. to
No,
come
it's a
on.
monthly special right
Okay.
now. Perhaps we will become more regular later, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
And it's produced again by.
RM Cruz, myself, Stella Winston. Yes.
Well, thank you for watching Producer Profile. I'm Stella Winston.
And I'm Orville Nelson. And please stay tuned for another Producer's Profile. All right.
All right.
Great.
Thanks.